David Savage, a.k.a. Diz, and this is The Force Always.
Okay, so welcome to the show for Star Wars this week. Now, later on the show, I have a Wanda Vision Episode 9 finale and general series review in the review section. That's again the WandaVision finale, which was episode 9, and the general view of the particular TV series on Disney Plus by a Star Wars fan, that's myself, to let you know my perspective of things. Not to say that it represents all Star Wars fans, but just something interesting. You know, it's good versus bad. Marvel is a part of Disney. Marvel is a similar type of ideal in a way to Star Wars, in a sort of different setting, you could say, but that's my opinion. But that will be later on in the show. It just aired just hours ago. Anyway, to more news, Chaos Walking is a film that's just been released. I'm going to give a sort of review to it in the interview section, which is after the review section in this particular episode. Chaos Walking, who stars Daisy Ridley, who played Rey Skywalker in Star Wars, and Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe. They've come together in a particular movie called Chaos Walking. I'll give you a sort of review of that in a basic manner just after reviews. And look, pretty much that's the Star Wars news for this time around. If you would say that Star Wars news, some of it isn't, some of it is. But anyway, let's get on with the views. Views is my story ideas that I give. Now, I don't really give a complete story all the time of Star Wars, but it's just, perspectives or, increments or snippets, or it could anything. Just anything Star Wars, I can, create a story around or with or whatever. This time around, as I've just watched WandaVision, sort of inspiring me to sort of say this. Now, I'm one to say that I follow Star Wars no matter where it goes, how it goes, why it goes. I just think it still has the Star Wars quality about it. It may not be the best, in certain respects or whatever, but I think there's one thing I sort of just really got now watching the WandaVision finale, and I'm just thinking, how does Marvel pull it off so well? In my opinion, not as well visually great. In my opinion, it's just a style. It's not saying that Star Wars is better, not saying Marvel's is better. It's just a look. But how did they pull it off? It's the storytelling, and I think what's been lost from Star Wars storytelling ever since A New Hope, Star Wars, the original, in 1977. George Lucas did say at a Star Wars celebration in the last coming years, I think it was the one at Orlando, he was there, and he did sort of give away something that he actually said on stage. Look, Kathleen or Disney won't really want me to say this, but it's always been geared to a 12-year-old boy, Star Wars. And sort of I get that. But when Star Wars came out, A New Hope, in 1977, it was ahead of its time. It had an adult way. It wasn't adult, it was an adult way of telling a story. And I think then kids bought into that, loved that, and sort of then the pursuit began. Empire Strikes Back was a sort of mature sort of Star Wars type of film, but it still fit into the 12-year-old boy sort of feel. But I think Star Wars, keeps on writing stuff that is in the 12-year-old boy sort of thing. And not to say boys are different to girls and girls are different. All people can accept Star Wars, but that's how it was said by George Lucas. I think that Star Wars should look to Marvel and think of how they create the stories, and it has an adult way of telling a story. Whether it's the actual words, dialogue, or just how the story, goes back and forth, changes, intro, body, outro, the whole, the whole plan of a story. I think it needs to focus on an adult way of telling a story. I think that's what's missing from Star Wars. Not to go at Star Wars. I'm one of these people that loves Star Wars no matter what. I think they've got all good and bad to it, but I genuinely like them. I love them, to be honest. But there is a maturity way of telling the story that has been lost. It was not, I think the prequels show, the creator catering for the 12-year-old boy again. I mean, by Revenge of the Sith, it was a little bit dark and twisted, but still, the way it was set, it was still for that sort of thing. I just think my story idea is to really take on, in a strong way, to Star Wars, anything Star Wars, an adult way of saying the story, or telling the story. That's what I think is sort of missing. And you sort of get that when you watch Marvel. Now, I'm not big on Marvel. I think there's a lot of things I don't like about it. I just can't get myself fixated with it. I did enjoy the WandaVision series. I do enjoy watching their Marvel movies time to time, but I'm not one that must know bits and pieces about it. If there was a Marvel, celebration, let's say, like Star Wars celebration, I don't think I'd go. I think I'd be a bit lost with that. But anyway, so yeah, that's my story idea for this week. Let's get into adult way of telling stories rather than catering for kids, because when you do the adult way of telling stories, then the kids follow, because they see it as like, oh, I want to be like that, or I want the story to enrich me like that. But anyway, that's my story idea. Let's get into now reviews. Reviews is of WandaVision. That's a Marvel series on Disney Plus. The finale, episode 9, was on just hours ago, or just now, whenever you're watching this episode. I'm unsure my particular episode, but let's just start off with episode 9, which is the finale. What did I give it out of 10? I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was a real build-up of emotions, a lot of going back and forth on certain stories that was working between the characters, Vision and Wanda, with their enemies at hand, even with the town. Now, excuse me, there is spoilers here, so please, I should just let you know. I almost forgot about that, my goodness. But anyway, and so the build-up and the end result to this series, episode 9, is a 9 out of 10. I thought it was really well ended, and if you watched past the titles, or during the titles, in fact, there was 2 sort of things that happen, and it sort of sets up for possible things in the future. That was with Monica, and that was with also Wanda. But it was, it was a sort of sad but fitting but happy, really, a canvas of emotions, if you were to say. Canvas of emotions. My goodness, what a word, what a setting of words I just created there. But anyway, I think it was good. So let's give the series, the WandaVision series as a whole. What do I give it out of 10? I'll give it I think it's about a 7.9 out of 10. As a general, from all the episodes, 1 till 10. I thought the first 3 episodes, for me, visually, and the idea was unbearable, even though it was creative. It didn't feel Marvel, it didn't feel like I really wanted to know more about it. It did keep me captivated, even though I didn't want to know more about it. But I just wanted to see where it was going. It was, the first 3 were just not really the thing. From 4 onwards, the story was just, interesting. It did dwindle in about, say, 7 and 8. Like, you sort of got the idea where it was going. There's no way you could have picked the end in how it was, and how it's the emotion and things like that. But look, a 7.9 out of 10 for the whole series is, I think, what's deserving. I highly recommend it. From a Star Wars fan like myself, it is definitely enjoyable. But the thing that, I don't know, look, other Star Wars fans may differ with this, but I find the look of Star Wars and the idea of Star Wars still supreme over Marvel. I think some of the animatics, the motion, the motion movement, and the look of characters and how they're sort of getting their points across can be just a bit uninteresting, but still enjoyable. So if you're going to watch the finale, it's going to be a 9 out of 10. If you're going to watch the whole series as a whole, really get through those first 3 episodes, it's worth it. It's 7.9 for the whole WandaVision. And now we're stuck without any new content, for Star Wars or even Marvel fans for just a little while. See what happens. I'm sure there'll be a making of or something like this with the WandaVision in the next week or two. But for the next, real live action series or animated series, we're still waiting for it to happen. It could be the Obi-Wan, I don't know, but let's just wait. Anyway, so that's my review for this time around. Let's get into the interviews. Interviews is 2 questions I asked myself for you guys out there. Interesting interview this week. It's 2 questions. It's going to be a mini review of the movie Chaos Walking. So the first question is, what did I give it out of 10? I gave it a 6.9 out of 10. Now the second question is, if there was one word to describe this film, Chaos Walking, what would it be? And I would say the most general word that describes the sound, the look, the story, the actors, the characters, and everything in between, I would just say interesting. Now, interesting is more positive than negative. That's my answer to the question. Now, let's just, it's a bit of a cheat what I'm doing here because it's 2 questions, but just a quick add-on to review. I think the area of this film that sort of loses out the most is that the intro and the outro is not so cement. I think it's a bit weak in that area. The body of the story is great. The look of the story is great. The soundtrack, the actual composition is great. It is a bit jarring to see Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland, but especially Daisy Ridley in sort of a similar type of role, and a role that I didn't think was giving her a stretch of, acting abilities. There is a real interesting little, numbers of little sequences, but it would set design, but I did enjoy the horrific alien that comes out of the water and has a fight with Tom Holland. I just thought it was such a well-designed, horrific-looking alien. I just thought that was great. I did enjoy this film. It's definitely enjoyable. It's definitely, but it really is. Like, I just could not escape looking at Daisy Ridley, thinking, she's taking me on a completely different character. She did act it well. I just think the story didn't really give her enough room to create a completely different character. She did look different. She did act a bit different, but it was a bit jarring. But definitely worth seeing. 6.9 out of 10 sounds a bit low, but it was just because it really did lose myself with the start and the end of the film. It was a bit shallow, but the idea of it, probably the most annoying part of this film, it's sort of annoying but realistic. It's when you actually hear the thoughts, because what it is men rule this planet, and not rule, are the only ones on the planet technically, and you can actually hear their thoughts as they're walking by or whatever. But actually just to hear that in the cinema audience was a little bit annoying, because if you're crunching on popcorn and stuff, because there's a lot of mumbling with these thoughts that men have, and it was just you miss little bits and pieces if you're munching on some popcorn, as I was, and but it's a little bit annoying. So it what else? No. And fun fact here, I actually was the only person in the audience. I rarely get the whole cinema to myself, but I was at the Classic Cinema in Elsternwick and I had the whole cinema to myself. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. It was a bit of fun. And yeah, that was, hopefully that's not the impact of the cinemas for the future. Let's hope it does bring people back again after this whole COVID sort of thing. But anyway, going to see Chaos Walking starring Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland. Also, actually, the best actor in this film was actually another Star Wars character. And I forgot his Star Wars character name. He was in Rogue One. It's Mads Mikkelsen. He was in it. Mads Mikkelsen, he was like a sort of a sheriff and bad guy in town, and he was great. He was fantastic. Anyway, so that's my Star Wars news, views, reviews, and interviews for this time around. I'm here on a weekly basis. You can message me by YouTube, or you can do by Instagram or Twitter. My details are down there. And until next week, keep rocking.